My name is Chase McCormick, and I am terrible with money. Well, that's not true. I am really good at spending it. I'm a starving artist who no longer wanted to starve. I make paintings that nobody wants to look at, music that nobody wants to listen to, clothes that nobody wants to wear, and movies that nobody wants to produce. While I initially started working in finance to fund my creative endeavors, I quickly fell in love with my new role and company. I was selected to be the new social media and events coordinator at the most fun firm in finance. While I don't know much about finance, I've certainly developed an interest to start investing in my future. That's why I thought it would be exciting for me to sit down with financial experts at our company, because if they can teach it to me, they can teach it to you. Real quick before we get into tariffs, as a first-time bus rider, I want to let everyone know a few things. One, it's not going to come on time. Number two, and I want to share this so no one else has to suffer, you've got to pull on a thing if you want them to stop.
What? That is brand new information.
I didn't know that. So
wow. Have you ever been on a bus in your life?
2 or 3 stops.
Or just lived in society as a whole?
I know. I was like, had to raise my hand and ask the bus driver, like, hey, I think you missed a couple stops. And she's like, you need to pull down. If you, I'm like, now it's embarrassing when I see her, but nothing but trouble on my mind. That's the attitude that got my ass. Here we are. Welcome back to Chasing Finance. We are back talking tariffs with our most highly anticipated, highly beloved guest, Ayal Shmilovich, managing partner, Future Money co-host, and some would call him an economic genius. I would. I said it.
I love it. I should have you introduce me to other people, to everyone.
Yeah.
Basically.
You know what? I feel like I'm the unofficial Future Money hype man, so maybe I could start doing the intro.
I think you're an official Future Money hype man.
That's true. Yeah, I was hoping you'd say that, actually. So everything's different now. Look around. What do you see? It's not just a blue wall anymore. It's not a green screen. There's no Tesla in the background. We're here with a cork wall and a poster of California. And look at these new mics. We each get a laptop now. Same thing as Celsius. Everything's different, though. What does that mean? Well, we've moved to Main Street. We've completely shifted our 13-year-old company.
15.
That was 15?
Yep.
15 years at Ocean Park. And guess where we are now? Main Street. 100 feet from the beach.
Sure.
Probably like 3,000 feet from the beach.
Yeah, it's probably not 3,000, but it's probably like 1,000.
1,000 feet from the beach. We're here on Main Street, live, coming to you talking about tariffs.
Those are like the two, like one is exciting and one is like the opposite.
That's true, yeah. Tariffs could be exciting.
Very nice juxtaposition.
Thank you. And juxtaposition means like two opposing opposites. Right? Sort of.
Putting two things that are different next to each other.
So we got a new studio. We got a whole new office designed by the legendary Frank Gehry. What does that mean for our company?
Are you asking me?
As one of the leaders of our company, what does that mean?
It means
forward?
like this is the next step in GK's evolution. Like it means we started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, right?
No, we're really excited about the new office. It really is a new chapter in GK's history. You know, having been here since the beginning, we started. We really kind of were nothing when we started.
What was it like? I heard they didn't even have water at one point.
We got in trouble for drinking too much water.
Yeah,
if you could believe that in the office.
Wow. Now I got free Celsius, free Blue Bottle coffee.
Wait, what?
I'm eating snacks.
Who's getting free Blue Bottle coffee? I definitely paid for my Blue Bottle coffee.
That's true. Well,
so who do I have to talk to?
You're the one that's paying for mine.
Yeah,
you know?
who do I have to talk to get free Blue Bottle?
You know, I like to manipulate people into buying me coffee. That's all I'll say.
All right. That's fair enough.
Yeah. I got, shout out to Dom, actually, Edgemar owner, just texted me. He's like, hey, you want some Blue Bottle this morning? I'm like, cool, yeah, I'll take some Blue Bottle. Like,
nice. All right.
Just the love. They spread the love around here, I guess.
So yeah, the new office, it's amazing. It's again, it's really designed as a number one to sort of encompass the growth that we've had.
Yeah.
But also to be an amazing space for our employees, but also for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
To do events. It's beautifully designed, like you said, Frank Gehry building on the outside, on the inside. The design is amazing.
Well, it used to be a theater.
That's what I learned.
And that's what I love the best as the, quote unquote, most theatrical GK employee is that spiritually speaking, thousands of plays and productions, have taken place right where we're sitting. And to be able to come build a studio here, it reminds me each and every day when I look up in the rafters and see the catwalk, I remember what my role is here. And it's to make content for all my financial swimmers out there. Or fishies.
Wow, that is very poetic.
Yeah, it's fun. Also the TV, we should probably talk.
As a resident non-spiritual person in this office, it's an old building that is now a new building.
Pretty cool, right? And we've got a bunch of big TVs now to watch games.
All right. Let's talk about what we're here for and not all the cool things we have in the office.
Okay, because we don't have to talk about the fact that there's no urinals, because I actually think that's a plus.
What is happening?
Sorry, I haven't recorded for a while, and Alex can't yell at me because he's not mic'd up, so this is fun.
I'm going to do it instead. I got you, Alex.
No urinals. I think that's a plus. I think we should all boycott urinals, but that's for a different episode. New expectations, new commute. One thing I wanted to share real quick before we get into tariffs, as a first-time bus rider, I want to let everyone know a few things. One, it's not going to come on time. No matter what app you get, no matter what, text this number for updated, it doesn't matter. You're probably going to have to sit out there about 20 minutes a day. It's part of it, though. Number 2, and I want to share this so no one else has to suffer, you've got to pull on a thing if you want them to stop.
What? That is brand new information.
I didn't know that. So
wow. Have you ever been on a bus in your life?
2 or 3 stops.
Or just lived in society as a whole?
I know. And that's the thing. I thought it was an like pull if you want an emergency stop. But apparently it's like they're going to keep going. So
yep, that's true.
Almost made it all the way to UCLA. And then I was like, had to raise my hand and ask the bus driver, like, hey, I think you missed a couple stops. And she's like, you need to pull down now it's embarrassing when I see her, but it's okay. We'll get through this.
It's okay.
So let's get into it.
This is us getting into it. Stage direction. Chase takes sip of Celsius.
All right. A lot's been going on in the market.
Yeah.
So we came. When did we record our episode? Was that December?
I want to say January. No, maybe February.
Okay.
I think it was February.
And what month is it now? April? May. May just started. It's Cinco de Mayo just happened. It's like May 7th probably. And guess what? Since we last spoke, the market has become extremely volatile.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what volatile means, then that means it's been going up and down at a rapid rate. And basically, the reason for that is what we discussed last time you were on was tariffs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the last time I was on, we talked about tariffs. We talked about theoretically what they might be or might look like.
Yeah.
And how that could affect markets in general. And, theoretically, we gave all these ideas.
Yeah.
Turns out
they all pretty much came true.
Turns out it was right. Who knew?
I mean, and this is why I said legendary economist right here, because he predicted some things, and I don't think he wanted them to happen either.
I definitely did not want them to happen. That's for sure.
Because I didn't realize exactly how emphasized they were. Like, you were kind of like, oh, these things might happen, and I didn't really take it as seriously as I should have. And then all of a sudden, next thing we know, the market is corrected.
Yes. Well, so corrected is 10% down in the market. Mm-hmm. That happened in 2 days after, quote, Liberation Day, as Trump would like to call it. And in your defense, what he said on Liberation Day was actually worse than the worst case scenario we knew at that part.
That's crazy.
At that point. Why? So, because the numbers of tariffs were off the charts, the reciprocal tariffs plus added tariffs on top of that. Now, since then, he's walked some of those comments back.
Right, that's true.
And so the market has bounced back because of that. So we had 2 days where the market was already down almost 10%. It was already right about in correction territory when this announcement happened.
People
plus
were
or minus
freaking out.
Yeah.
That was a crazy day.
In 2 days, so we got a bear market in like a month, and that is so. Bear market is officially a 20% correction in the S&P 500 or in any index really. So the S&P was down 20, the Nasdaq was down over 25, as the Nasdaq's a little more volatile because of the tech weighting, and so then he starts to walk some of these comments back. And we get one of the best days the stock market has ever seen.
Yeah.
Which is up 9% in a day.
Woo!
Yeah. And so if you want to know what volatility is, that's 3 days where the market moved down 10%, and then back up 9%.
Oh, so that's when the dip happened, right?
Correct.
And so...
And to be clear, when you go down 10, going up 10 doesn't mean you're back to where you were.
Okay, well, I didn't know that either.
Right? So if you think about it, if I have $100...
Because of compound interest?
Because of the way percentages and fractions work.
Okay.
So if I have $100...
$100, you go down
10%, so I have $90. Okay. Now I make 10%.
Oh,
what's 10% of
that's
$90?
$99.
Correct.
Damn.
Right? So the more you go down, so people go, oh, well, if you're down 50%, right?
Yeah.
Let's use an extreme example.
Down to $50.
How much do you have to make to get back to even?
So
percentage-wise. Come on, man, I'm giving you easy numbers.
Wouldn't it be
you
double?
You have to make 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So people get confused with percentages because of that, because it's from that point. It's not from the original value.
Because that's the thing is I've recently just started like checking the markets like on probably like daily now, even it's almost like an hourly basis, just because I've never really been more interested. Now that I'm kind of invested, I feel like I'm in the game more.
Yeah, you shouldn't check the markets every hour.
Yeah, but I don't. But that's the thing is that I started doing that, and then it's like doesn't really matter. So then I'm like, okay, because of these percentages, it makes more sense to check. Okay, what is it for the day? What is it for the week? What is it for the month? And I keep going back. Okay, well, it looks like all these stocks are down. And then I go, what is it for the month? Oh, it's up 15% for the month. Who cares that it's down 2% today?
Yeah. But did you look at, a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, right? Like that's how you want to look, right? The stock market is a long-term game. It is not meant to be an ATM for people.
Yeah.
And people who do that learn very quickly and very hardly that this is not the place for that kind of behavior, because you can lose a lot of money very quickly.
Exactly.
And then you, if you do the thing which we always advise people not to do, is panic.
Yeah.
And you sell.
Yeah.
That's how you lose money.
And if you panicked and sold, you're a coward, right?
Someone who doesn't have proper financial advice.
Yeah.
And should probably seek proper financial advice.
I mean, I remember that day because I on days when the market's down, you literally come into this office, and actually it wasn't in this office, it was still at the old office, but you can feel the tension. Like I can walk into this office, and yes, I am very spiritual, but I can walk in and I will like literally be like, oh dang, like what happened? The market must be down. And that day I was like, whoa.
Well, yeah, when you say down, if the market's down 1%, you're not gonna.
You know
what
I mean?
Feel
a correction
that.
day.
Yeah. If you're down 7% in a day, you're gonna feel that in the market for sure.
It was palpable. And I'll just say this: I bought the dip. Like I didn't have a lot of money to put in, but I called up my advisor and I said, "Hey, here's $1,000," and that's a chunk of my net worth. That I was just like, take it and run.
And how do you feel about that now?
Couldn't be prouder.
Yeah,
couldn't be prouder. I only wish
Chase.
I had more.
That's the attitude that everybody should have during corrections. Okay, we don't know if the correction, and by the way, we don't know if we're out of the woods. To be clear, this could go on for a year.
Years
could go on for 2.
Yeah,
right. But
maybe 4.
Ultimately,
if you know what I mean.
In general, there's very rarely been a time where the markets were down for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
There was a rare occasions in history where it happens, and when I say rare, I mean like twice.
Yeah.
Right. So generally, a bear market, which is a 20% correction, lasts about a year.
Okay.
Okay. And this is an average. And in general, a bull market lasts about 4 to 5 years.
Nice.
Okay. So, but, so what that means is, right?
Yeah.
80% of the time, or 75 to 80% of the time, the markets are up. But when the markets go down, they tend to go down fast, hard, and scarily. And there's always a reason to say, this time it's different, though.
Yeah.
This time, trade issues. This time, Trump. This time, COVID. This time, financial crisis.
So what do you do when your clients are freaking out? I'm sure you had a few clients that called you that day, more than a few probably, and wanted to sell, wanted to liquidate. Like, what do you say to those times?
Yeah. There are clients who, I'm glad to say that there were very few clients who actually panicked. And that a lot of them were just concerned as to what are we doing? How do we mitigate this? So what I say to my clients is, listen, I show them historically what the markets look like. First of all, I have to empathize with them because it is scary.
Yeah.
Right? It's scary to see your money go from 100,000 to 80,000.
Yeah.
If you're 100% stock invested in a month. Right?
I'd be scared.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Okay. So people just need coaching. Again, if you've been with us for a while, this is not the first time this has happened. You've been through this before, right?
Yeah.
I understand that you feel like it's different this time, but remember, your goals are not a year from now. They're not 3 years from now. They're 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
Oof.
Okay. So let's continue to get invested. And I'm happy to say that all of them were like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Most people need what I call the financial hug. They just need to be told that everything's going to be okay.
And Ayal's a very good hugger, by the way, too. He's got the biceps and the shoulders for it.
Chase and I, we have never hugged Chase. Actually, we embraced.
I had that one dream. Yeah.
But so I told them, keep your eye on the prize. If you have more money, this is the time to deploy it. If not, we rebalanced our accounts when markets were high. We rebalanced again when they were low.
Yep.
Right? This is the things you have to do.
Just let them know.
Let them know.
I feel like you can always say, hey, if you want to, we've got you in, let's just say a 50-50 allocation, right? If you want to be 60-40 and up it in the bond market, you can do that. I'll buy a bunch of bonds for you if that's what you want.
Correct.
And then I'm sure they're kind of like, actually, no. My other question, besides can we ever hug if LeBron retires, because that could be a good time for it, is... did you have clients that called you up and said, okay, I've been holding money. Let's throw it in now. Now is the time.
Yeah.
Let's go buy a ton.
Yeah. If our clients had money in cash, I got several clients who actually did add money during that downturn.
And they're happy now?
They're very happy now. I also had a bunch of clients who added money earlier in the year. And generally when people add money, we don't just throw it all in.
Yeah.
Right? We dollar cost
DCA.
average. We keep buying along the way. And so I had clients who bought in January.
Yeah.
And obviously they were down when we bought again in February and again in March and again in April again, right? So we're DCAing and we're getting average costs down. So yes, people did call to add money. And that's how you know that people have learned some of the investing game, right?
You're a coach. You're like a tutor.
It's absolutely. I always tell people, I go, my job is part investor, part psychologist, part cheerleader, part coach.
That's fun. And part friend.
Personal trainer.
Yeah. I always say personal trainer. That's the one.
And friend too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that kind of stuff. And again, most people were okay, but they are nervous about what's happening and are still nervous about what's happening. And by the way, like politically speaking, we're in, the west side of LA. It's one of the most liberal places in the country.
True.
So we're going to skew much more on the scared side over here.
That makes sense. And I had a good question. Oh, yeah. Is it ever hard for you to not dollar cost average? Like if the market crashes, or not crashes, but if it goes down 10%, is it ever hard for you to not be like, okay, let's throw 80% of your cash holdings right now? Like, even though you probably or should be dollar cost average monthly, is it not hard for you to just be like, okay, hammer the dip, let's buy it now?
We try not to make wholesale decisions. Like in general, there's a process, but there are times where I will accelerate if the market sells off faster. Yeah. Right? When I invest, and a good investor understand, and you know me, you talked about the spiritual stuff. I'm a math, probability. Even though
Really?
I have I'm a psychologist by trade originally, so the emotional and stuff is also my forte. But as far as my viewpoint of the world, it's probabilistic. Okay, so there's only been about I want to say 6 times. I don't have don't quote me on the exact number in the last 100 years that the market has been down more than 20% in a given year. Okay. So if the market's down 20%, I know I have a really high chance of making money over the next 12 months comparatively. Is it right all the time? Absolutely not. But if I'm going to add new money, that's the time I'm going to do it. And so when I see the market down 20% in a month, I do deploy a little more quickly. I don't throw, the rule book away and just do whatever I want because I had a plan with the client.
But you got to use your strategy too.
Absolutely.
If you see the opportunity, you got to take it.
So if my goal was to dollar cost average over 12 months, maybe now I accelerate that to 6 months because I have more of an opportunity to get in. But we also have to manage people's behavior because while I can be very probabilistic and statistically driven, for my own money, I am that way. I don't pay attention. If there's markets are down big, I buy on those days. But my clients, I have to consider their emotional state also. So if they're nervous about tariffs and trade wars and Trump politics, I need to maintain that by progressing this over a longer period of time because people feel good when they have cash on hand when markets are going down.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I also, we are here to talk about tariffs because as, last time we talked about tariffs, but it still feels like following Liberation Day, there is a lot to talk about. I feel like it's kind of like been a little bit iffy too, like the communication to the common man. I'm a little confused on what exactly is going on because it feels like, things were said. It was like, we had this Liberation Day, everything was enacted, and then it seems like he's kind of gone back on a few things, and so...
So you're confused?
I'm confused.
Okay, just so we're clear, everybody's confused.
Everybody's confused.
Yeah.
Even you're
including,
confused?
I think, the administration.
Yeah.
I am also confused because we don't actually know what the tariffs are going to be.
Well, we're in it together. We're in it together.
And that's part of the trouble, economically speaking, is if we knew that tariffs were going to be 20% across the board, whatever the number is, it's not good, but at least people can plan around that now. But now we're like, oh, it's 25% on this. Oh, it's, the China thing was like, it's 25%. No, it's 40%. No, it's 100%. It's 125, 100. And you're like, what is happening? And now you actually have no idea what the cost of your goods are going to be in 3 months. Are there going to be tariffs? Are there going to be, 145% is just nonsense. But then computers are exempt, right?
That's weird. Yeah.
So you're like, how is anybody supposed to make sense of this stuff?
And who's getting the exemption? Like, why are computers exempt?
Because people need computers and they're made in China.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say, honestly, like trying to come up with the rationality of all of this. Like, I understand on a high level, thinks he's playing 4D chess, but he's not.
Yeah.
Okay. And I what I feel is that we're trying to bully the rest of the world. China's one thing, but to try to bully Canada and Mexico and Europe, who are trading allies and partners, it just doesn't make sense. But now he's realizing we have CEOs, we have people on his team, we have Republican legislators who are going, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And the answer is we still don't know.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So what tariffs have actually gone into effect so
we
far?
have the automotive tariffs, reciprocal tariffs on cars. We have the tariffs on lumber for Canada.
Are they country to country? Or
they are country. There's a reciprocal tariffs for countries who have tariffs. We have reciprocal tariffs on them. But again, there's carve-outs. Now, some of them we've deferred for 90 days. You know what I mean? So the picture, if anything, is murkier than it was 3 months ago.
That's great. And if we're curious, is there a place that we can go to find an exact list of at this moment in time, these countries are paying these tariffs, these products are paying these tariffs.
I mean, you could use ChatGPT for that.
Okay.
It's wonderful for those things.
Good. I heard about that. Yeah.
You heard about ChatGPT? I'm glad you heard about it.
So if we put a tariff on Canada and then we also have a tariff on one of their major exports, let's say timber, do those add up? Those compound together? So like if there's 20 and 20, then now they're a 40% tariff.
So that's part of the problem is these tariffs have become cumulative versus having a flat tariff on people, right? So if I have a reciprocal tariff plus a timber tariff, now I have a multiple tariff.
Okay.
Right? And that's what's happening with China specifically. Is we have these and then we keep upping them and then China doesn't blink and then we keep upping them. But we have all these tariffs that we're tacking on top of each other, essentially.
Okay. Dang.
Yeah. But again, we don't know if this is going to happen.
Wait, it hasn't happened yet? Because this is what I'm confused.
No.
So what tariffs have actually happened so far?
We have the lumber stuff.
Okay.
There's reciprocal tariffs on cars that are not made here.
Okay. So that's it, though?
That's all I got so far.
There's not really that many.
No, we don't know. Again, we don't know yet.
Because now I'm even more confused.
We keep exactly. That's my point.
Okay.
We keep punting other tariffs to go like, hey, 90 more days, we'll give you another chance. Oh, we're having talks with China. Oh, we're talking to India. And so, again, nothing has fully been enacted yet.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I shouldn't say nothing. Very few have been enacted.
You said lumber, automotive. There's just like maybe 5 or 6 that have actually gone.
Yeah, I don't know the number offhand.
Okay. Well, my next question was going to be, do you have a favorite tariff? But
is favorite being used ironically here?
Well, I was kind of thinking like maybe, I know we don't feel like they're the best idea, but is there maybe some that you're like, okay, this makes sense? This is like a good tariff?
I don't know if I have a favorite tariff in particular. What I would say is of all the places that we can be playing and should be playing hardball, it is with China.
Yeah.
Because China has taken advantage of not only the U.S., but the world, not just from for just basically like stealing intellectual property.
Sure.
Not playing by the same rules that the rest of the world is playing.
Okay.
And does that merit 145%? No. Because China is essentially the world's builders of things right now. So it doesn't make sense because we're hurting ourselves in doing that. A good way to approach it would be continue to move logistically outside of China, right? But China knows how to manufacture things. They have 1 billion people to manufacture things who cost a lot less than we're never going to be able to compete with China on a production scale or with Vietnam. But I do think
Vietnam, really?
Yeah. Vietnam is where a lot of like Nike shoes are all made in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right. And they used to all be made in China. And so
Japan's kind of fallen off, right?
Japan doesn't manufacture a ton of things. Again, Japan is mature economies don't manufacture a lot of things in general in this global world. I think one of the big exceptions would be Germany that, makes cars and things like that. But the world is not an industrial world anymore for the most part. It's a digital world, right? And so that's where the U.S. flourishes in the digital world. We're never going to be able to compete to make your socks.
Yeah, that's what Ross was saying.
Right,
yeah.
right? Or to make your iPhones or to make whatever, the shirt that you're wearing is never going to be made here because it's going to cost you.
Nordstrom's Rack, by the way.
It's probably going to cost you 3 times as much.
Damn.
And we as consumers in America are not going to buy stuff at higher cost because it says made in America. We're just not.
Because that was my next question is who is going to be the most affected? I think, is it going to be small business owners? Is it going to be the lower class? Is it going to be the upper class? I mean, it seems like everyone will be affected.
I think everyone's going to be affected in some way. I think small business owners, particularly who are offshoring the production of whatever they're making, are probably going to be hurt very badly because the production costs, interest rates are still high. So it's hard to borrow money still for small businesses. And so this is kind of a double whammy for them. Now, we also have, immigration is in question now, and that increases the cost of hiring and this kind of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, because, immigrants come to this country, they tend to take less money than people who live here.
Yeah.
Right? And we can argue all day whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's a different issue. But the fact of the matter is the cost of hiring you, Chase, versus hiring an immigrant from another country who just got here is much higher. So the cost of labor is going up, and tariffs are generally inflationary.
Yeah.
Again, theoretically speaking. And so all of these add up to costs, and small businesses cannot, if you're Apple, you might get hit by tariffs and it might hurt your bottom line, and maybe you make 10% less money, which is bad for the stock. But you're Apple.
You're still Apple.
You're worth $3 trillion. You're going to be all right. But if you're, mom and pop, making shirts and selling them to boutiques, you know what I mean?
So I'm a shirt maker. You know that, right?
I do know that.
So, yeah.
Maybe that's why I thought of it subconsciously.
Ingenious. All right. So is Prime Minister Modi still the tariff king after all of this?
I still have yet to hear this from anyone, by the way.
Well, we'll move on.
I've not one time heard that he's the tariff king.
I found out because whoever commented, by the way, we got a swimmer out there that actually commented that Trump is the one that keeps calling him the financial or the tariff king. So
maybe it's because I don't listen to Trump that much directly. Yeah. I mean, I do read about everything he does, but I try not to listen to him directly.
That would make sense then. Have any businesses already come overseas? Since I guess these are just threats, but have they already come back from overseas and said, okay, all these tariffs are going to happen. Let's let's go back to America? Or
I'm sure there are a few here and there,
but no major,
but nothing that we know. Listen, to Trump's credit, and I generally don't give him a lot, but to Trump's credit, in 2017, 18, he enacted some of this stuff, and people did reshore some of their stuff. People did want to make investments in America.
Yeah.
There are ways to get people to invest in America, but threatening to tariff everything is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
So there's incentives are a good way.
I was gonna say, what is the way to do it then?
Incentivizing businesses for opening manufacturing plants.
Okay.
For designing chips, right? We have a lot of chip companies that are designing and making chips in the U.S.
Sure.
Right? And part of that is
NVIDIA, right?
NVIDIA, Intel. Part of this is a national security issue also, because we don't want countries like China manufacturing our chips, which are ultimately going to be very important in our national defense in the future.
And that's why they only allow them to buy so many chips from us, right?
Yeah, that's part of the reasons. The others, they copy them, and there's all kinds of reasons. But yes, that is a major one for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And are there tariffs on crypto or blockchain, or because that seems like it's almost another country?
There's no tariffs on blockchain because, frankly, I don't even know how you would tariff it, because the blockchain is thousands of computers across the world that verify transactions. And so I don't even know how you would tariff something like that.
Okay. Could be something for the future, though. You never know, right?
You never know anything. I mean, we got the threat that we're going to get 100% tariff on movies made outside the U.S. now.
Yeah. Okay.
So who knows?
That was actually, I'm going to skip a bunch of silly stuff because I don't want to make Alex mad. In fact, this is really fun. I feel like it's our most heated discussion yet. I love it. Okay. So what were we talking about? Oh, Netflix, Sony. Okay, perfect. So
Netflix, Sony.
There's a recent headline. I've been hearing recent headlines about all these new tariffs. So I kind of wanted to go over some of the stuff that's been going on recently. What does the common man need to know? First is
common person.
Common person needs to know.
Here.
What is the de minimis tariff?
So there basically used to be this rule, or there is a rule, where if it's less than $800, you're kind of exempt.
From paying taxes?
From tariffs.
Tariffs, okay.
Yeah, any tariff. Okay. Now that goes away.
Wait, so that's gone?
Yeah.
Wait, so if what's $800? The good that you're purchasing?
The good that you're selling, purchasing.
And so now everything, because there's also that headline that they were talking about, everyone that ordered from Shein or Shine, that clothing company that's cheap clothes.
Yep, Shein and Temu.
And so, but now my question is,
because people were complaining, they were wondering, like, is my stuff going to be held somewhere? Is it ever?
Yeah.
But it hasn't been enacted yet, or those have been enacted.
The de minimis rule is supposed to go into effect,
Mhm.
but as far as I know, none of this is actually like trickled through the system yet. I believe it's like in the coming week or two that they're supposed to get through this de minimis rule.
Will it get pushed though?
You know, we'll trying to guess what happens in this environment is it's honestly like it's like playing roulette.
Yeah,
frankly.
And I've played. It's scary.
Yeah. So we're not trying to make any major investment decisions around what is said. It's very hard to try to trade around what is said.
Yeah.
Because it can change from hour to hour, day to day.
Oof. That's chambers just spinning too.
Yeah. So again, if people are nervous, we tell them to get more conservative. Now would be the time if you want to get right. We had a bounce back in the market. So, markets are only down 5%, 4% from the start of the year, something like that. Wow. The S&P is from the start of the year, right? From the high, it's still down 8 or 9%. But we had a bounce back. So if you're nervous or scared, now is the time to get more conservative. It wasn't a month ago. Okay. It's now.
Bonds.
Bonds are one way to do them.
Municipal funds?
Municipal bonds are a way to do them. Listen, all investments have some kind of risk, right? If not, then you just leave your money in cash.
And that's even more risky.
So if you buy a money market account, right, you're going to earn 3.5%, 4%, and it's never going to grow more than that. But if your goal is long-term growth...
High yield savings
is basically a money market. If your goal is long-term, 4% is not going to get you to your goals. Okay. It's just not.
Yeah.
So you have to understand if you're scared and you're going to use the money in 6 months, absolutely don't invest it in the stock market.
Sure.
But if your goal is 10 years from now and you're nervous, maybe take some off the table and put it in cash, put it in bonds, things like that.
Interesting.
But don't make a wholesale shift in your strategy.
No.
Because once again, a month ago, everyone thought the sky was falling. And then we're up. If you sold,
I bought the dip, baby. Yeah,
and you're up 15% probably from the low.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can't make these erratic decisions because we just don't know what's going to happen. And it seems to be even more the case now with the administration that we're in.
Okay. And I'm thinking about these movie tariffs too, because I was starting to figure that out. And I was like, okay, you've got Netflix, American company. You've got Sony, that's Japanese company, right? So would they then want to tariff Sony and not Netflix? Because Netflix stock's been one of the only ones that's been doing well.
Netflix has been killing it. And one of the reasons, right, is because they were not kind of in this tariff conversation also. Their numbers have been great. They've been growing revenue and earnings. But they've been sort of, excluded from this tariff conversation.
Yeah.
So from my understanding and again, it's just a statement that he said.
Yeah.
Right. So who knows?
It's crazy.
But from my understanding, it will be a tariff on movies that are made outside of the U.S., which is kind of nonsensical because if I'm making a movie, like you think about a show like Game of Thrones.
GOT,
right?
Yeah.
Right? Most of that was filmed, right, in, all kinds of places. In England and,
Bora
Croatia.
Bora.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to film that kind of show in the U.S. because there's castles and, all kinds of, it just doesn't work. Or what if I'm filming a Shogun, which is an American show about Japan,
Asia, yeah.
Right? Or what if I'm filming, there could be a million reasons.
Like the part in Monsters, Inc. when they're in the winter. Remember that?
I think that one you can get away with.
True, yeah.
It's a digital one. You could digitally make the...
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't.
Mike Wazowski.
What? Are they in a foreign country?
At one point, they go through the door, and then they're in, the snow, and then they find...
They're in the Himalayas. They find the Yeti.
Yeah, the Yeti. Yeah. I was going to say Abominable Snowman, but I thought that was...
the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There we go.
You learned something new.
And what is an exclusion tariff, then?
An exclusion tariff?
Yeah.
I mean, I assume just by the name, it just means that... Are you talking about a tariff exclusion, meaning you're excluded from that tariff?
I wrote down exclusion tariff, but I don't know.
I don't know.
And then my next question actually was, at this point, are they allowed to just make up tariffs?
I mean, haven't they been doing this?
Is that what's just been going on?
That's basically what's been going on. Again, historically, tariffs have been a legislative thing. Congress
Really? Okay.
has enacted tariffs in the past.
So he's kind of coming at Congress saying, I could do a better job.
Well, it makes you understand that basically the way government works is there's a bunch of rules and checks and balances that happen, but a lot of the operations are based on faith.
Okay.
That people will perform the task. Faith that you're going to do your job and I'll do mine and I won't step on your toes.
But that's not working?
What's happening right now is Trump is superseding all the, quote, norms that have happened over the 250-year history of our country.
Okay.
He is enacting tariffs, which are ultimately been a legislative thing. The number of executive orders he has signed has not only surpassed, but like monumentally surpassed what other presidents have done.
Okay.
And so, right if you're someone who supports what he does, you'll say, well, he's getting crap done. He's getting his stuff done. He's not waiting for the boring legislators to sit around and do their job. If you're somebody who's more skeptical, you're saying he's kind of breaking what has made this country what it is today.
Yeah.
Right?
And so executive orders, like, where is like the check and balance there? Like, I know essentially it's like him saying I have complete control, but we're also not a dictatorship. Like,
we're not a dictatorship.
Got to be able to stop him, right?
The executive orders are kind of a gray area, right? It's as chief executive of the country, basically, he has the authority to do some of this stuff. Now, our checks and balances happen with Congress and with the courts. And what we're seeing actually is many of his executive orders, or at least some of them, are being actually checked by the courts. They're being stopped.
Okay.
They're being challenged by the courts to say, you can't do that, you can't do that. So he can say whatever he wants, right?
The Supreme Court?
Well, it hasn't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Right? So the Supreme Court only has to go through a million things before you get to the Supreme Court.
Right.
But Trump will say, okay, we're going to enact this executive order, and, the courts are now going, you can't do that.
Okay.
And so now the Trump administration, his lawyers are going to have to challenge the courts, and, there'll be a legal battle, and that's an arduous task. But this is why we have the judiciary branch to kind of challenge some of the stuff that he's doing.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I know we got to get you out of here soon, but I did want to ask, I know earnings are out. And so I was kind of interested to know Q1 earnings are released.
Yeah.
And obviously there was a big hit to the market, but it seems like it kind of came back. So how is like the tariffs affected it? How were they overall? Did they beat expectations? It seems like
tariffs haven't affected anything yet, really. Right. So the one thing it did affect is, so we had a negative GDP for the first quarter. And part of the reason was because import-export, like the difference between the two, gets calculated with GDP. Okay. What happened is we had people import a ton of stuff ahead of whatever the tariffs are going to be.
Yeah.
So we actually had a big negative on the import-export number, which I think is ironic given what he's trying to do. But we haven't seen the effects of tariffs in earnings yet. Earnings for Q1 were actually very good. They were up about 12% so far. Right? Tech earnings were very good. Microsoft had amazing earnings.
I heard NVIDIA beat earnings again too, right?
And NVIDIA hasn't reported yet. NVIDIA reports in May 28th, I believe.
How is it determined when they have to report?
You basically, like, there's sort of a norm that if you're a tech company, you report at this time. But like, that's not like a hard and fast rule. You can kind of use discretion also.
Okay.
It's kind of like, norms and executive orders.
Yeah, exactly.
So earnings were actually very good. Some of them were not as good. Tesla's was horrible. Apple's was but Microsoft's were great. Meta's were good.
Microsoft's also been ripping.
Yeah, because their cloud AI business is doing really well. So, but what all the companies almost across the board are saying on their earnings calls is we're uncertain about what the future holds. So companies pulling guidance, saying we might not even give you guidance for where we're looking this year because we just don't know. Yeah. Right. Now, if you're Netflix, less affected. Right. But if you're Tesla, major effect as to whether you're going to get 145% tariff in China.
That's true.
Right? So we just don't know yet. We haven't seen it. And I believe in the next 2 to 3 quarters, we're going to see the real effects of if this happens and how bad it will affect them.
What do you what are your expectations? Best case, worst case? What should we be?
Let's start with the worst. The worst case is he doesn't walk back any of the tariffs, full-blown trade war. And
sorry, I don't know why I got
the economy. No, that's bad.
That's really bad.
Real bad.
Yeah.
The economy goes into recession and into major recession. Okay. And then we're talking about a 30+% correction in the market. Okay, that's a normal bear market averages about a 30% downturn from top to bottom, not like in a given year. Okay. That's the worst case scenario. There's a trade war, isolationist policies. Basically the U.S. cut off from the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's worst case. I don't think we're going to go there.
You don't think so?
No.
Good.
Best case scenario, we walk back all these tariffs.
Said he was joking.
Said we made the biggest, most beautiful tariff deals we've ever made.
And I've said stuff that I regret. I've taken things back, too. Yeah. Ask any of my exes. I always come back.
But he needs a victory in this somehow. So the best case is we made an amazing deal. We made amazing deals. Everybody wants to deal with us. We're the greatest.
Yeah.
And
we're the greatest.
This is a non-issue.
Yeah.
And maybe we just get a little tiny hiccup in kind of like the economy, and that's that. My hunch is it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
Is we're gonna get some of these tariffs walked back.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them, probably.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know this, but we're gonna get some of this stuff in. There's gonna be some impact from tariffs. There's gonna be some extra, economic impact that's gonna slow the economy down. Maybe recession, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, we get kind of back to more normal, like trade stuff.
Okay,
that's what I believe. But that being said, I've been very wrong in this administration. Also,
we're just guessing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So everybody who all the CEOs and the business people and the people they do not want a blow up of their investments, of their financial situations, and Trump knows that.
Yeah.
And so there is now some pressure on him from the people in his camp. Even
that's the thing. Yeah.
Be it executives at large companies, or actually Congress pushing back on him and stuff like that too, going, "We're not going to do this. This isn't," because they know we have midterm elections in basically a year, and a campaigning season for midterms is in a year, right? And so the Republicans will lose their majority if people feel that if the economy is in a bad place.
Yeah.
And they're thinking about that.
Of course.
Yeah.
So maybe China could use a couple tariffs, probably Canada and Mexico. We want to avoid that.
Yeah. I mean, look, in the end, we need to have trading partners. We need to have, and I understand that we need to negotiate deals with our trading partners. And I don't disagree, by the way.
Yeah.
But threatening everyone and just blowing everything up is not a way to negotiate a deal. And so hopefully cooler heads will prevail. Cool. And this will be, fine when we look back 6 months from now.
Well, all we can do is pray. All right. So the good news is, as we wrap things up, we can confirm a few things. One, we're not in a trade war, right?
At the moment.
That's good.
You could argue we're in a full-blown trade war with China, given the escalation.
Okay. So maybe we are in a trade war after all. But overall, our foreign relations are good?
No.
So we're on the brink of a trade war still, but we're just not quite in one yet.
Yeah, we might be at the... Yeah, it's hard to say, right? Because these things can escalate very quickly and spiral out of control quickly.
And maybe fun's not the right word to say, but it's kind of interesting that we think about at any moment, in a year from now, we could be in a world war, or it could just be like, oh yeah, remember when the trade thing kind of happened?
Yeah, I would be very surprised if there's an actual war,
really,
like a physical war.
Okay, that's good.
I would be very surprised.
We don't want that.
I'm not worried about that, frankly, compared to the other stuff. But we could be in a full-blown trade war, and we definitely don't want that. Trade war is a war.
Yeah.
It's just obviously people don't die, which is good, but people lose their jobs. People, like there's a lot of unintended consequences. And I get what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
The execution is the problem.
Interesting. Well, we got a lot to think about. And thank you so much for being here.
Yep.
Thank you to the swimmers. Drop a comment, like. If you have questions about tariffs, questions about finance, if you just want to tell Ayal he's a handsome dude. If you miss Alex didn't have a microphone today. You want to, drop a comment to get Alex a microphone. Whatever your thoughts, whatever your questions, whatever your feelings, let us know, because this guy's going to be around again, and we're excited to have him back. Thank you for being with us for our first episode on Main Street. Big, big, big things coming, not just from this podcast, but from this company. Check us out on our socials, Gerber Kawasaki, Chasing Finance Podcast. And if you have any more questions, you want a more in-depth, outlook on the market, what's been going on, go check out the Future Money Podcast starring Ayal and Hitem, one of our other advisors. But thanks for joining us, everybody.
Trouble on my mind. That's the attitude that got my ass off the sidelines. You either ride pine and cry about playing time.
Please remember that nothing we say here should be taken as personal advice. This conversation is for entertainment purposes only. If you have questions about your financial situation, please talk to a licensed financial advisor.